Хлеб всему голова.
Bread is the stuff of life. We often heard these words since childhood. After all, bread and other flour products occupy a significant place in our daily ration.
Но если хлеб всему голова, то голова
Flour is the main ingredient of bread, and today we will tell you where the flour is taken from and how the flour, an integral part of hundreds of different bakery products, is produced.
хлебобулочных изделий.
So, how flour is made is the subject of today's program.
Передачи.
This is one of the largest enterprises in the Ukrainian capital. It supplies flour on a daily basis to many bread baking plants and confectionery factories in Kiev and other regions of Ukraine. Every month, more than 16,000 tons of grain is processed there. So where does the flour come from? That's right, it is made from the grain. However, there are different sorts and grades of grain. Accordingly, you get different kinds of flour. The technological process begins with grain receiving. As soon as a grain truck with grain enters the territory, samples for analysis and determining the quality and characteristics of the cargo are selected. It depends on what will be done with the grain. In this laboratory, equipped with various measuring instruments, the grain goes through a careful analysis to check that it meets a number of criteria and standards: humidity, fibrine, contamination, garbage, and grain impurities, safety indicators, etc. This is the so-called express analysis. In a few minutes, a special device determines the main indicators of grain quality. In the future, even before grinding, the grain will still be checked for compliance with other parameters. The analysis data is put into the system, and then the grain truck goes for weighing and unloading. After weighing, grain trucks unload the grain. Then it is conveyed into a grain elevator through a transport system. The elevator consists of 30-meter-high silos with a capacity of 200 to 600 tons. Wheat and rye are stored separately, since different sorts of flour are received from each crop. The transport system of the enterprise is quite mind-boggling. It is automated. Operators control the movement of grain and flour on the plant's territory after its unloading from trucks using norias, vertical lifting gears, and horizontal conveyors. After the grain is conveyed into the elevator, the grain is prepared for grinding. During storage, humidity and temperature must be taken into account. After preparation of the recipe, the grain is sent to the mill. Flour, as we know, can be of different sorts. The first is suitable for confectionery, the second for paste goods, and the third for bakery products. None of these sorts is made from the same grain class.
Ни один из этих сортов не делается из одного класса зерна.
To get flour with the necessary indicators, it is often taken from a batch of grain consisting of 2 or 3 components. The process is quite complicated. At the mill, all grain processing is done by machines, and here all the processes are also automated. Operators set the routes of grain and flour movement from a console. The flour milling plant consists of a large number of special machines and different transport mechanisms. Inside the mill there is a grain cleaning shop. Before grinding, the grain passes through several cleaning stages, during which extraneous impurities such as garbage, husks, and small pebbles are removed. The grain is cleaned of large and small impurities in the separator. At the same time, the grain is washed. The dryer column separates the water, dries it, but not completely, because the grain has to be slightly moistened. After a few hours, over which the grain passes the purification and moistening process, it is ready for grinding. The most important task is fulfilled. All unnecessary impurities are removed from the grain, and only the core remains. Then the grain gets to the rolling machines. The roller park is the so-called heart of the mill. It is here where the grain is refined. There are several rolling machines. The first one grinds the grain, receiving flour and remnants. The remnants go to the next machine, and so on until the grain passes several stages of grinding. The main task is to get rid of all the remnants. Then the flour goes to the shaking machine. Inside this cube there are frames acting according to the sieve principle. Flour is sieved as a result of strong shaking. The flour is poured into one of the sleeves, larger particles are poured into another sleeve and are then sent for repeat grinding. It should be noted that cream of wheat is produced during one of the grinding stage. After passing through the process, flour and bran are obtained from the grain. Bran is just a hull from which the grain is released during the grinding process. About 750 kg of flour is obtained from 1 ton of grain. Before the flour gets to the warehouse, it passes through a magnetic cleansing process. The name speaks for itself. A magnet helps to remove from the flour the smallest metal particles, which could get into the grain as it is crushed by metal rollers. Then the finished product passes through accounting and grain control again. Flour is delivered to the warehouse of finished products by the transport system. Passing not 1 kilometer through pipelines and conveyors, grain turns into flour. The last stage is packaging. There is large packaging when flour is filled into bags of 50, 30 and 25 kilo. And there is small packaging when grain is filled into small 2 to 10 kilo packages. Then the products are pulled and piled and stored. From the warehouse, flour in bags and packages is shipped through trucks, which deliver it to stores, supermarkets and large-scale production facilities. And there you have it. That's the full cycle of operation at a flour manufacturing enterprise. So remember our motto, grain drain gives flour power.